Good morning. We are live, 7:28. Hopefully, you guys are up and about. The thumbnail that I put up is from pretty far back. It's me taking the inline six-cylinder out of the 71 240Z. And initially, it was done so that I could put an LS in there because, you LS swap everything. And I've always wanted a V8Z because I think that would be really cool. From way back, I have the swap book on putting a 350 small block basically in the Z and a turbo 350 trans. You can put a manual trans in there too. I've always wanted one, and especially after getting a hold of an aluminum L33 5.3 liter, an aluminum motor is the perfect candidate for a Z. And then I realized the Z probably needs to get an inline six-cylinder back in it. I was thinking about the RB 25, but I think more than likely the L28 turbo is going to be the engine of choice. And that photo is when I took their original Z motor out that had side draft Webers or Makunis or something on it, and it was a good little motor, but it it doesn't make nearly enough power. So that's what you need in a really light, cool looking car is an excess of power. So that will be the next project after the Omni, and actually it's going to be running concurrent with the Omni because the Omni's out at the car farm and they're going to be painting it. So while they're doing that, I can do the mechanical stuff on getting the Z ready. So I'm hoping to that's the next one to get done. And then the Mustang, my original 5-liter 1988 LX original owner Mustang needs to get running. That's what they all need to get running. And that's my goal for next year is to have all of those things up and working and being driven around. So there's nothing better, even when it's not perfect, there's nothing better than being able to drive your project car. Because if you can drive it, you can do more things with it. So just get something in there, get it running. It doesn't have to be you have this lofty goal set. This thing is going to be the most epic car ever. Well, it can be, but make it run first, and then you can do all of the other epic things, including making the ultimate motor for you. Well, I'm not going to put the motor in until it's like 100% bored and stroked and forged and nitrous and turboed and blower and all that stuff. Just get any kind of motor in there because you can solve a lot of problems by doing that. By getting something in there and running, you solve all the problems with, this thing needs to happen with the wiring and the exhaust and all that. Get all that stuff solved so that when you put the ultimate motor in, you're not solving other problems. All you're doing is doing a motor swap. So get some cheap, inexpensive motor in there, get it working, get it running, drive it around. You can work on things like, do the brakes work? How's the balance on the brakes? You can get lots of stuff done. You can solve lots of problems. And while you're doing that, you can drive it around. And that's much better. So that is my plan for getting all of these things working. I'm probably in the Mustang just going to put a regular stock kind of 302 in it. Just like I said, just to get it running and get the thing back up. I'm sure I'm gonna have to check a lot of things on it. It's been sitting for a very long time, so we'll need to check the fuel system from the tank all the way forward. I'll want to put a bigger pump in it. I think that thing might have, I don't even know if it has a 255 in it. I know it had some kind of in the tank pump, and might be a 255, feeding another big Bosch inline pump that also had a bypass around. It was kind of back in the day. It's pretty state of the art. And I had a switch where I turned the second pump on when we were really putting the juice to it. And then it also had a third pump. I had all these kinds of light up electrical switches, so you have to make your cockpit look like a cockpit. And what that was the transfer pump. And the transfer pump I used to put a 10-gallon cell, bolt that into my spare tire well. And when I say bolt that in, I ran flag screws through the spare tire well with straps to hold it down and a piece of foam underneath it so that it didn't move around. But I had a transfer pump going to draw the fuel out of that 10-gallon cell and basically just feed the filler neck, which I found out while drilling through it. The filler neck is a double wall. So I had to go through both of those. But that's what I would do is that as I was, and we did this primarily for the Silver State because that's where we would run out of fuel. Because when you're running wide open throttle for, a half hour or more, you tend to go through a lot of fuel. And the 15-gallon tank, I think, was in the Mustang. We would drain that in about 65 miles. So the first time I did that when I ran the blower on it, I had to. Somebody gave me, a very good friend that I had met out there, gave me a 2-gallon gas can, and I just bungee strapped it in the trunk. Not a good idea. Before I had the fuel cell, and he said, "You're going to run out of gas." I said, "Well, I don't think so. It gets pretty good mileage." He goes, "No, not with the blower." He says, "You're definitely going to run out of gas," and I did. And so I was able to put 2 more gallons in and then drive it at a fairly leisurely pace for the rest of the race. When I say leisurely, I mean like 110 or 120. And then I had a Porsche Turbo go by me, and I'm like, "Oh no!" So I downshifted gear, raced back up, passed him, and subsequently ran out of gas. It coasted across the finish line. So it was, there's no better story than that. And there's actually a lot more to that story. When I stopped and was yelling at the people, the course workers, and almost yanked my head off because I left the mic cord connected because I was doing voiceover talking on my VHS tape because we were doing course notes. And, it's a whole big thing. But it was a lot of fun. But I want to get that car running because that car I've owned that car. I bought that new in '87 and has a lot of sentimental value. I bought that to go showroom stock racing, bought it, decided I'm a race car driver, went and put a cage in it, put stickers on it, all that stuff, so I could be a real race car driver. It was, it's always been a great car, and I've always loved it. I've done a lot of racing in it. We did the Foxtrot for a magazine. We did a road and track top speed shootout. We did all kinds of stuff, and that car needs to get back driving and have and be enjoyed like all cars do, and the same thing with the Z. So I think a Turbo Z would be cool, and then the Mustang will get something other than a stock one after we get it running and get it kind of back working. It does have a coilover suspension and stuff on it, so I don't remember now what gears are in it because we've swapped different gears during the Silver State adventures to try to get this thing to run in different RPM ranges. I even tried a 241 gear set so that we could run it in 4th gear, because we have the problem is the T5 that I had, I should have just switched the transmission, but the T5 that I had such a big drop. It went from 1-to-1 to like a 0.68. And so that was a huge drop in RPM, which was beneficial when the car was kind of stock because it would run to 6,000 RPM in 4th gear with a 308, which was near 140 miles an hour or so. But it would want to heat up when I did that. I think we were probably cavitating the pump. We were out of the efficiency range of the pump. But when I'd shift back into 5th, it would basically run the same speed. It would just do it at 41 or 4,200 RPM. So it was much happier at that lower engine speed. And then with a blower, we could run it up around, 53 or 5,400 or something. But I want to get that thing running again, and I actually have a T56 that I could put in there, which would be good. I also have a Tremec Trans, a 5-speed for it, which would also work out good. All of those are good options, but it just needs to get, and I have 302s laying around that I could put together and run it. So it was. It's always been a great car, and that's my goal. I'm tired of them, after seeing the Nova sit there for so long, and Oliver just make it happen, get that thing running for his deal. I'm like, this could all happen, and then taking the road trip inspired me on going to Ohio to get the Omni running, and I'm excited about getting that thing emissions legal and driving around. And then the same thing with the Mustang. The Mustang and the Z both need to run, and swapping a motor in after I do the testing on the 280 motor with the turbo and heads and various things, then that motor could be in good shape and go in and driven around, and having a 300 or 400 horsepower motor in that car will be a lot of fun. Let's see. My LeBaron's almost ready to terrorize the street once again. Oh, and by the way, I want to know what have you guys got? What did you guys get anything done on your projects? Because that's what this morning is all about. That's what all the mornings are about. That's what the start is incentive. You guys need to go out and get something done on your project. I got the camshafts unbolted from the heads, so that was on my list. Very simple thing. I mean, it's only 10, 13 millimeter bolts for each one. I got both of them undone and ready to ship off. So let's see. East Coast is in the house. Washington. Uh-oh, Jose, somebody broke into the shop. That's not good, man. I'm afraid about to LS swap his 350Z. That's a good combination. That's an old school Z to put the V in. Oh, resto mod. Yeah, that's a good swap over for an early Z. Have you had a project car stolen? I have. I had one. I had my the land speed record Chevy Sprint Turbo was stolen, unfortunately. Well, while we were my good buddy Tom was putting a cage in so that we could take it to Bonneville, because I had already run faster in the standing mile than the record one of the records that I wanted to go after at Bonneville. So we knew we could go a lot faster than the Bonneville record because we'd done it in a standing mile already, and we hadn't even swapped the turbo out or done anything. So it went 119, and I think the record at Bonneville, the first one that we would try to set, was only 117. It went 119 in the standing mile. That's a lot. Let's see. I have a 94 Roadmaster. I'm looking for a tuning interface. What would you recommend? It has a 10-pin diagnostic port. I don't know on the factory stuff. I don't know. There's got to be, I know that there's programming for that LT base motor. So HP tuners or one of those things you'd have to have access to that. Because I know that they used to tune them back in the day. I have a Kawasaki Mach 1 doing a full restoration. Your Kawasaki was stolen. That's not good. On my way to get E85 twin turbo 6-liter Fox is going on the dyno. Cool, dude. Let me know what it does. Let me know what kind of boost you run and how much power it makes and all that. I'm always interested in dyno results. Working on getting my 99 Suburban back in. I said 227 gears I'm going to use for paperweight or scratch. 227s would be good to run in fourth gear if you're doing top end. 247s were found in, let's see, uh, 4.9 F-150 trucks. The gear set that I have came from either a van or a truck, and it came from an application where they had a 3-speed trans. So it was like a C6 or something. Pretty sure I have an LS7 built, forged bottom end, heads stock, but gone through and cleaned up. Stock intake and throttle body, BTR C4 cam. As a 4-corner steam kit necessary. I would use it. We don't use them on the dyno, but we run them for such short periods of time. I think on the street I would run them. Today I'm shipping stuff I sold on eBay to help fund the project. Good. Todd's in the house. Richard, I'm working on the exhaust. I'm still running dryer vent. Well, at least it's lightweight, right? Still trying to get the forward clutch piston in my AOD without tearing up the seals. Uh-oh. Next year marks the 1-year ownership of GTO. So you have GTO ownership, have everything except the T56 Magnum to manual swap it. That's next year though. Picking up a 6-liter. I have I don't know what year GTO that is, but I have a manual trans 4-speed swap that the young lady is selling from her project. It's a Muncie, I think. Tyler, I'm planning on building a 383 and transfer my 87 IROCkin. I have a spare donor car with an engine I'll use, trans and rear end, but I have no goals for the car. Any ideas to get it motivated? Are you a 383 would be good in an IROC? Is it an automatic? Is it a stick? Actually, it doesn't matter. A 383, even a carbureted one, would be really good. Those cars are fairly aerodynamic, so it would be good to put some gears in it, put headers on it, put a 150 shot plate on it, and you'll be having fun in it. Working on getting the garage organized. Ooh, an XR4 Ti. I do like those. A much better looking SVO Mustang. Wrestling with my second C-clip on the CV joint on my other RAV4. But you won last night. Good. We have to have these wins, right? For motivation, drink a caffeinated beverage and clean your area and prepare. Yeah, preparation. Organization is the key to success. I've got full Apex Engineering suspension for my 75Z. Need to find a VK56 to squeeze into it. I like their suspension stuff. It's really nice. I'm working on a shortened Winnebago. Nice. And a shortened Winnie, it needs zoomies, cats and skinnies. That would look good on there. When junkyard shopping, that's always a good day. About 2 complete 5.3s drive-by-wire motors to use for winter project. 62 Chevy C10 short bed. DB Wise or no 455 Buick. That's coming back. I'm still working on it. Gunther, Richard, do you think a 90mm throttle body is good enough for a 5.7 LS6 heads cam and intake? Well, what intake manifold do you have on it? The throttle body size will be dictated by the size of the opening in the intake manifold. A 90mm is more than enough flow for that combination. But whatever intake size you have, that's how big the throttle body should be. If the opening is 90mm, then it should be that. Because stepping up the throttle body and then necking it down to a small opening will do nothing for you. Been helping on an LS swap and a 91 Chevy van recently, but about to go bracket racing. That's going to be a good day. An MSD Atomic, I would put a 102 or 105 on it because it has that big of an opening. '95 351 Windsor mass air conversion. Is it possible for an A62 to pull oil through the rocker arm bolt into the manifold? Not usually with the bolt in there. Obviously, it does go through, but when the bolts tighten down, that's not very normal. Todd, I didn't look at the data logs yet. Good morning. Looking to build a 79 D100 with a 360. Like to run a turbo. Unsure what the stock 360 can hold. You certainly could run 7 pounds or so on a stock 360. I would put ring gap in it if the motor is out just to make sure. But I'm certainly that it would take that. Been back and forth on a debate. Should I continue looking for a VK56 or should I try to build up the original L28? Previous owner only put 6,700 miles on the car. Well, the motor's fresh then. I mean, you can make good power with a turbo, and that would be an easier thing for you to do while you're going and getting all the stuff that you need for a VK swap. Because what ECU are you going to run on the VK? Still deciding which aluminum heads I'm going to get for the roller cam 94302 I'm working on. There's lots of good heads out there for a small block Ford. Would like to see a video on reading spark plugs for timing. Lots of methanol videos. I don't think I've done any of those, but the spark plug thing would be good. And it would be nice to correlate the ground strap position and the actual timing. Started wiring my Jeep. Mine was I sealed the bolts and hope it fixes it. Now I may have to try different bolts. I don't know why unless those threads are stripped out and are oversized, I don't know why it wouldn't seal. Those bolts have the factory ones, I think, have the sealant on them from the factory. Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with running methanol on engines. I should try it. I should do it on some kind of boosted motor just to learn about it. I don't remember if when Freiberger and Dulcich and Brule on Engine Masters ran that big block that he has with the Blower Shop 871. I know that they ran nitrous on it. I know they ran E85 on it. I know they ran a tunnel ram on it. But I don't know if he ran it with methanol. I'd have to go watch that thing again. Putting a 7875 on my 408. That's good. That's good stuff. Okay, poll for today, for this morning is, do you have a project to work on this weekend? And I actually do not. I don't have one here that I could do work on. I have some parts. I could clean the, I think I probably will clean the L28. Probably will spray that off. I've chatted with a Link ECU associate who gave me a couple of options for the VK. I wouldn't even swap the L20 out if I could get one of those Dawson Works CAN 20 heads. If it's a turbo L28, you probably could port it yourself. With the forged bottom end and a 360 LA, can the cast iron block handle 750 to 800 horsepower? That's the limit of my turbo. Yes, without any problem. And more than likely, with ring gap, I would be surprised if, and I haven't done it yet, but I would be surprised if a stock bottom end 360 LA motor with cast pistons and stock rods with ring gap in it couldn't go to 750 horsepower. I'd be surprised if it didn't do that. But I obviously haven't done that yet. But we do that on lots of stock bottom end stuff. Like look at the 5-liter Ford or a 351 Windsor doesn't have any more, I don't think, internal strength than an LA motor does. So and a small block Chevy of that era, I don't think it does either. I think with ring gap and a proper tune, I don't even think it needs a forged bottom end. I certainly wouldn't put a forged crank in it. If you were going to put forged stuff in it, you put forged rods and forged pistons. That would be enough. Gonna do a turbo on my TA, but my car's been parked for years and I got everything to get it on the road. So on my next days off, I'm gonna get it running and tagged and enjoy it. There you go. Just don't worry about the turbo yet. Just get it running NA and cure any kind of issues you might have. Gen 5 454 M21 trans with a 309 Ford 9-inch. Have you seen the combination chamber of the Aussie Hemi 6? What's the deal with a bump? We better fill and weld and create a heart shape. I haven't seen, I don't think I've ever seen a close-up of the combustion chamber of that particular head. A project of electrical. I have a project but no money to work on it. That's always part of the project deal. Mexico City's in the house. Need a project. I can load my truck and bring it to Backville and do some hits on some back roads. No, I don't need a project, but I'm happy to try to help you get your thing working. I'll try to take a look at your things today and see what's going on. You need to add a lot more fuel. Weekend goal is to start the C4 swap on this XR4 Ti. So you're putting a C4 automatic in that? Are you still running the turbo 4-cylinder in it? The KN20 head is a dual cam crossflow head designed after the Honda K20. Utilize Honda valve train minus the custom shaft. I think I read about that. They go for 10 grand just for the bare head. Yeah, there's no way it could do it. I mean, it is cool, and if you want to do it just because it's cool, but there's just no way that it's going to be worth $10,000. There's so much more that you could do with $10,000 on that Nissan. Z-Car Garage has a video Z they built with a head swap. Yeah, I would, if I was going to do that, I wouldn't do that. Not ever, probably. I would be much more likely to just put an RB motor in it. You run EGT sensors when you dyno engines. Sometimes we do. Do you have a temp that you target? No, because the temperature is not. I'm much more concerned with air fuel, and then we also adjust timing. So I'm concerned with those two things individually. The problem with EGTs is the EGTs are a function of those things, and we can have too much EGT from either one. We can have too much EGT from not enough timing. So I don't normally look at EGTs. We do it more so to know that all of the holes are there, and then to see if there's a problematic one. But what we normally do, if we're really concerned with individual cylinders, is we run 802s. It kind of gives us a better idea. An XR4 Ti would definitely count as another guy's car. Even the 2.3 liter turbo motor would definitely be an other guy's Ford thing. It would be interesting, like the 2.2 liter Dodge. Oh, did they? I didn't know that they. I thought the XR4 Ti's only came with manual transmissions. I didn't realize that you could get that turbo motor. Can you get that turbo motor with an automatic? XR4 Ti is the American Sierra, but with an SVO engine instead of the Cosworth one. Yeah, it doesn't have the 4-valve Cosworth head or motor, unfortunately. That's a really good one. Richard, is this a regular Friday morning chat? I've been doing mornings every morning, not just on Friday. So you're welcome to show up here any day or every day. XR4 Ti, SVO, Mustang. Mercure is the Scorpio. Subaru had the weird one with half windows. All of them were exotic but approachable. Maybe I should go start my Cutlass project. You should. You should start it up and just have it speak to you. It's important. Let's see how our poll is doing. Got lots of people, 94% are saying that they have a project to work on. That's awesome. I'll donate a Volvo head. I think that Oliver actually has that Volvo head, and he may have been involved in one of those swaps already. A ported Volvo head on there would be good. It'd be interesting to put the Volvo head on, get it running, and then be able to swap it back and forth between the stock head and that head and see how much of a power gain it is. Who does an 8-cylinder O2 setup? We have one on the dyno. I don't think it might be an ETOS one. But well, Westech has it, and they have it set up so that we read all 8 of them. Richard, do you think you could do a video on reading data logs? You mean how to grab all of the information that you want to look at? I'll send it so you can send it on the dyno. What was that one? Oh, the head. Like I said, I think Oliver might have that already. And I'll swap with a slightly wrong cam. That's perfect. They all are that, right? I know that. I think this is the most conclusive poll yet. But see, it's interesting. The longer the poll goes, it seems like the more no people want to come in. 2.3 would be an obvious place to use a cheap Eaton 90 series. Actually, the 2.2 would be a good candidate for that, and the 292 inline 6-cylinder would be a good one for that, because that's kind of an old school motor, so it needs to kind of have a roots blower on it. And the other one is and I know guys want to see a 371 or a 471 on the Pontiac because it's OG. But that M90 would be perfect on that motor too. Fixing the wiring on my 86 Shelby Charger, good. That's awesome. You have an 86 Shelby Charger GLHS because it's an 86, an Omni. You got to tell me what number it is, right? I mean, if you're a Shelby guy, you always have to say, I've got Charger number 187 or whatever the number is. Our AFR 185 is too big for a stock bottom end 302 and a GT40 style intake. No, they're not. And I'm hoping that you have some kind of camshaft in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't actually bother putting airflow research heads. If you have them, they're great. If you don't have them and you're buying them and you're going to put them on a 302 with a stock cam and a GT40 intake, I wouldn't do that. You're just not going to get anything out of them. You're restricting it too much with the other things. I would just go get a set of GT40 heads from the wrecking yard. This weekend, I'm working on putting an SVO 2.3 in a Sunbeam Alpine. That's very other, guys. That's very cool. It's a little Tiger, or yeah, it's a little Tiger, right? 90 series blower versus a turbo. That's not even close. In fact, you can kind of look at that where I did that on the 3800 series motor. Thanks. I've learned a lot from your channel and think you've done a lot for the community. Thank you very much. Todd, reading them. Just reading just how to read them. And yours is a Holly, so at least I understand that and know how to log and know how to get all the data. Data logging is very important. You get a lot of information rather than trying to, if you're out on the street, going through the gears or whatever and trying to watch something, trying to watch an air. Wait, what was the airfield at 2300? I don't remember. A log tells you all that, and then you just go in and it makes tuning so much easier. You trace your little bubble and go, oh, here my timing right here needed help and my airfield right here needed help, and then I can go in and adjust all that. The Sunbeam wasn't that. It was that's what Get Smart had. It has Sunbeam Alpine, right? Need to button up my turbo 4th gen Camaro. Need to finish body work. 68 Chevelle. Also have a dirt bike. Excellent. 2.3 is the other guy's small block Ford. European Fords are cool. My Irish buddy had a motorcycle. It was a motorcycle hill, and he said the Cosworth Escorts gave him. I really liked the Cosworth Escorts and the Sierras. I thought that those were cool too. Sunbeam was also James Bond's first car. That's right. That's right. The low weight on the 2.3 made the Mustang's balance better. The SVO was a good handling car. It was better than a GT was. Pulling a Detroit 6.2 out of an 85 Sierra. So not a Cosworth Sierra. So the other kind of truck Sierra, swapping a 350 TBI, a standalone harness, a PCM, Turbo 400. Cool. Inner tie rods and upper control arms on your Mark 8. Gabe, welcome to the live show. 93%. We're still doing good on our projects. Lots of people doing projects. The Mark IV had the Cosworth 4-valve head on it, but just not in the United States, right? We got the little 2-valve Pinto motor. All the SVO guys used to get mad when I tell them that. Oh, those are the cute little ones with the Pinto motors in them, right? Like that. Sure. Stripping out a rotted 86 2.2 turbo car. Gonna swap into a clean non-turbo body. Good. Shop 3 options, sidewalk outside, no shop options. So it's the sidewalk, grass field 10 minutes away, or pavement 20 minutes May. But time is limited. Oh, I see. Is the motor running? Yeah, Jeffrey, unfortunately, there are not a lot of his comment was using in videos on the Ford 400 as a basis to build both my 70s era trucks. The 400 just didn't have a lot of support in terms of intake manifold. You could do a lot of the 351 Cleveland stuff with spacers, but the spacers kind of become problematic. My brother and I just swapped an LS from my dad's 66 El Camino so he could drive without worrying. He was very skeptical, but now he's a believer. They are really good. I mean, especially if you go from a small block to that, it's really a good step. I've got to find knock sensors and coil pack screws for the 2-valve so I can put the intake manifold back on and get ready to order a Holly kit. Do you have exhaust crack issues with your crossover pipes or manifolds? I haven't yet on the engine dyno. Any suggestions on supporting the weight? You do need supports out. Most people go from the head or the block to put supports on it. LS swapping my 64 Impala, found an iron-headed LQ4, so an early one, a 99 or 2000. It's like a pump pan, cam and springs and heads on it. Oh, you did put 799s. The Vince, you put a sloppy stage 3 cam in it. You should check that cam doesn't fit stock piston to valve clearance. So before you spin that motor over, you might want to give that a check. I think that cam's too big for the stock piston to valve clearance. And I don't know what the valve drop is on exactly what it is on a 799 versus a 317 head, but it might even be less on the 799 head. I have a Chevy square box C20 350. Want to do wheelies? Probably won't happen, but it's worth. Is it worth money to get 500 from a 350? And LS, it's so easy. 500 from a 350 small block would mean if it's NA, it means it's a fairly wild, cantankerous kind of thing. You'd have to have really good heads and a big camshaft and lots of compression and a single plane intake and all that, or boost. Have to run fuel injection on all LS. If that's a question, the answer obviously is no. You don't have to. You can run carbureted LSs. Admiral, could you convert a dual plane? That's what I would do on a 460. Oh, I was saying the Dodge M4S Turbo Interceptor was Cosworth 4-valve head. Oh, okay. What was that, a Cosworth head? I have some wood to jack the car up on the grass. A grass field can become problematic because a lot of times you just push the jack into the ground and the car just stays there. Although an Omni is pretty light. Any recommendations for a budget fuel pump? There, a 2.3 turbo, if it's stock, is a 255 pump is pretty inexpensive for in the tank. My 95 Tahoe 5.7 TBI has a bad rod bearing, and my 93 Sierra 4.3 needs head gaskets. Gonna LS swap the Tahoe and rebuild the 5.7 and put it in the pickup. There you go. So you're going from a V6 to a V8 on the Sierra, and an LS swap into the Tahoe. Speaking of turbo support, would a cast iron manifold be strong enough to support a smallish turbo without bracing? Yes, normally they are, especially if it's a typical kind of turbo exhaust manifold. It's fairly short and mounts the turbo right to the thing, so bracing is not normally necessary. Will 671 support a 404-inch LS stroker? Yes, a 671 on a good 671, we've done almost 1,000 horsepower. The stock EFI 460 is already a dual plane. It's not a dual plane carbureted manifold. It's a long runner intake. You can use 3/4 plywood to spread the load. Yep. Rec port heads are these much better than cathedrals. Get a 5.3 for a swap. You can't put rec ports on it because the rec ports won't work. They'll physically bolt on, but the valves will hit the bore size is too small in the 5.3. The valve actually overhangs the bore size, so when it comes down, it's going to hit the edge of the bore. So you can't use those, but they are better than a cathedral. But on your 5.3, unless you're trying to make a whole bunch of power, the 706 head that came on your 5.3 is actually very, very good. It'll support a lot of power. It'll support 500 horsepower. You know, the stock pump on a 92 EFI 350 would be fine. A Holley carburetor, is that what you're asking about? Or a Holley EFI? JPL's in the house. Boosted 400 small block versus boosted 427 big block for reliability. If you're talking about 800 or 900 horsepower, the big block would be a better way to go. And the bigger the big block is, the easier it is going to be for you to make that kind of power number. Robert, good morning. It's 4 in the afternoon. I can't control time. It's not a carburetor manifold, but it's a divided plenum dual plane with a specific port for the upper intake. Maybe I need to take another look at that. Then can you put an adapter and just run a carburetor on it? Cast iron exhaust manifolds with header-sized tubes always seem like an untouched market opportunity for turbo and reliability applications. The problem is that it's expensive to do those castings, and as you try to make the tube length longer on a cast iron manifold, it gets heavier and heavier. Anyone have a cam recommendation for a stock everything 5.3 4L60? Yeah, it would be a Truck Norris cam, or a stock cam, or a torque cam, or a stage 1 truck cam. All of those would be good. AJ, it's still a project. You could just go put stickers on it and it's still a project. Would trick flow stage 1 be enough cam for AFR 185s and a GT40 intake? Yeah, the GT40 intake is going to kind of be the limiting thing there. 24-pound injectors are about 400 horsepower injectors. Will probably be enough for that combination, although I would feel better if you had, because that combination is not going to make 400 horsepower. and 24s would be enough. Keith, so you're local in Vacaville? Very cool. LS head versus a K20 head. I don't know what your question is. I never did do a dual M90 supercharger setup. And the only reason the reason that I didn't do it is because I felt like I was just doing it to get a bunch of views, because I know that it's not going to work very well. Are you talking about a K-Series Honda? A K-Series Honda, just look at the NA power output. A K-Series Honda makes way more horsepower per liter than a LS does. It's certainly a stock one, even a modified one. Although there's a limit to what you can make in terms of ultimate power on a K20, just because it's limited in its displacement. Smaller motors are always easier to get higher specific outputs, and then a 4-valve head is way easier to get a higher specific output. Two-post lift sitting on dirt beside my mom's garage 15 years because the ceiling wasn't high enough. One of the engine swaps that when we pulled the engine out of my Camaro, we had a brace beam going across the garage, and then just put 2x4 supports under that because that beam had too much unsupported length. So we put supports in it and used it to, come along deal to get the engine out. So you can do it from a tree. I pulled the engine out of the truck with my neighbor's tree, and you just got to make stuff happen. So the turbo or twin, if I get a turbo carb dual plane intake, then heads and cam, what will stock bottom end hold? Gabe, I don't remember which engine that you were talking about. I'll try to scroll back and see. Yeah, Gabe, I'm not. Oh, 350. Yeah, you can turbocharge a small block 350. You just have to make sure that the tune is right. Good morning. My project is to go to the junkyard for a cylinder head. That's perfect. I don't have any idea what F1 cars are doing right now. I don't even know it. I haven't watched F1 in a long time, so I don't know what engine configuration they're even running right now. But they're probably limited in what they can do. They don't allow them to run. They haven't for a long time since the Formula One days, and even then, since the original turbo era of Formula One, and even then, they immediately started regulating them to how much pressure that they could run. But it's easy to get a motor to run low speed power with dual injectors, things like that. A K20 Honda already makes 100 horsepower per liter. It makes it stock. That's a 200 horsepower 2 liter, so it does that stock just like a B16 Honda. 160 horse B16 Honda already makes 100 horsepower per liter. It's not 1 horsepower per liter. It's 100 horsepower per liter. I use a tractor to lift my car off the engine. That works also. That's the nice thing about having lifts and we did that with the, I think that's how I pulled the engine out of the Omni, I think. I don't think we pulled it out. I think we lifted the car off of the engine and trans, if I remember right. No, maybe not. Maybe we did. I think we did pull it out. But you can also lift the body off of it. You can undo the K member and just lift everything off and then take it off. My new project is a 66 GMC that I want to put an LY6 in. That's a good combination on a 372, 351 stroker. Our world product senior still has a big restriction. You have a 608. Ooh, a 264, 274 duration. Is that at 50? If that's at 50, those world product heads, if they're stock, would be a restriction on that combination. A good set of airflow research 205s or 225s. There's a lot of other good heads that would support that. You're going to need a head that flows over 300 CFM for that kind of combination. Yeah, you can't pull the sticker off a Trans Am. That would be sacrilegious. Saturday, I plan to pull a set of 05 Aviator heads from the junkyard. That's good. That's good. Why aren't you getting the whole motor? I have seen a number of 5.4 4-valve motors in the wrecking yard. I just bought a project a few months ago. I have a few questions. I'm on Facebook and I'm also on Instagram, or you can ask questions here. You can send me an email, whatever. That's how you remove the engine from a Fiero, lift the car off of it. I would really like a Fiero with one of those 3800s in it. Stickers on a minivan, that's good power. So our poll is at 93% have projects they're working on. That's good. We like to hear that, especially on the morning project show. I like when guys are talking about weird stuff too. Lifting Fieros off of their engine. That's good. Cosworths, Sierras, XR4 TIs. All of that's good. All that's good stuff. '90 CRX with a boosted B18A1. Oh, so it's got the big black CRX motor on it. The CRXs are nice because they're little and lightweight. The first turbo Honda I think I ever rode in was a CRX with a CarTech kit in. I think Kip gave me a ride from Turbo Magazine. I remember thinking, man, these things go really good. Yep, the dual element wing on the XR4 TI makes a statement. Mark 8 4-valve engines are desirable for some reason. What year is it? Is that a B-headed deal with the multi-port intake manifolds? On the journey to 600 horsepower or so, the 350. 84-year naturally aspirated is impossible. Almost gets sprayed, but just want the power turbo. A turbo is cheapest. Making 600 horsepower from a 350 is a really, really expensive proposition if you're trying to do it NA, and it's a wild cantankerous motor that's not going to drive very well. With a turbo, it's simple. I haven't done a big bang 4.6 liter 2-valve engine. So you turboed your riding lawnmower with an extra turbo you had later on. It must have been fairly small then, because a riding lawnmower is not going to make very much power. So sometimes the problem is getting a turbo that's small enough that you can even get it to spool up and start feeding itself. I would like to have boost on my Trail 90. In fact, I think that should also be a project list. The SVO, John, the SVO Mustang had a dual element wing on it. SVO Mustang. That was the fancy one. That had the Coney quad shocks. Or I don't know if the quad shock part was Coney. But that's where the Celine stuff, I think, all came from the SVO. Boat. It sounds like you really need to fix that. Is it a steering arm or something? Is it a tie rod end? Is it a... Yeah, the SVO had Coneys on it. 79 Cobra. Did you have the King Cobra? Although I don't know if that was in 79. The Indy Pace Car one was cool. Gabe, I don't know what your 84 350 is. I don't know what... I have to know what application it came out of. Like, is it an 84 Corvette 350? Is it an 84 Camaro? Is it a full-size vehicle? Is it a truck? Is it throttle body injected? Is it carbureted? What is it? And an 84 at its very best would have made 200 horsepower. More than likely, if it didn't come from a Corvette and it's a Crossfire injected 84 motor, then it's probably going to be more like in the low, well, maybe mid 100s. So it's not going to be super powerful. So you'd want to do some stuff to it to make power with it. What's the disadvantage of a drive-by-wire throttle body? There's not. The thing that I don't like about drive-by-wire throttle bodies is that you're not in control of what the throttle body does. You're suggesting to the ECU with the throttle pedal that the throttle open, and the computer can tell you, well, all of my other things that I want to give you wide open throttle, all of those parameters are not met, so I'm not giving you wide open throttle. I don't like that. I like when I tell it to go to wide open throttle, I want it to go to wide open throttle. Just like on every electronic component, there needs to be a switch that's an off switch that overrides every other switch. When I want something turned off, or turned on, I want it turned off and I want it turned on. I don't want it to stop and think about other things and tell me, well, you really don't want to turn this off yet. No, I really do. I want it to turn off. Same thing with the throttle. So that's what I don't like about drive-by-wire throttle bodies. That said, the programming that they have for them can help with big camshafts and those things, so you can have better drivability. But you have to be able to program that. King Cobra was 78 only. Okay, those are cool. 35 millimeter off of a 3000. Oh, so one of the small twins off of that. Sounds like a diesel. We bolted a dirt bike carburetor on the inlet turbo. Runs like these. That's perfect. Would a battery operated leaf blower, it's not going to produce a lot of pressure because the way that the blower works on those leaf blowers, it's not sealed very well, so it'll get a lot of backflow, so it won't build up a lot of pressure. But you just have to know what the flow rate of the lawnmower is, basically its horsepower versus the flow rate of the leaf blower. But we've used those on cars before and they do work. There were earlier 83 GT Mustangs with 2.3 non-intercooled turbos. That's correct. GT 350 Mustangs. That's right. I remember those. And 84 had non-intercooled turbos. What was the power rating on those? Was it like 150 horsepower or something? Richard, I'm planning on buying a C4 Corvette. I really like those. Those are a C4 Corvette is a really good platform. I mean, they handle fantastic, and you can swap in any kind of, you know, carbureted small block, or an LS would be good. There was a carbureted turbo Mustang in '79. I have to go back and look that up. I thought that all of the turbo ones were fuel injected. It has headers and a quadrojet 4-barrel carb, cast intake, getting a turbo carb and an intake and heads and cam. Yeah, if you put ported heads or any kind of aftermarket aluminum head, which would be good, put a mild cam in it. You're going to need a dedicated blow-through carburetor for that, for if you're going to pressurize it. Yeah, Kay Daly, I'm with you on the subscription for heated seats and a key fob to unlock the door. So you have to pay a subscription to unlock your doors. Oh no, I would have a manual unlock. I wouldn't buy the car for that if it had that. Your opinion, what's the most stout 4-cylinder for boost? I don't know that there's an absolute answer for that. Casey, you want the '83 Corvette? let me know how that works out. Yeah, the SVO was 205, I think. And I don't know why 175 also rings a bell for one of those. Yeah, 175 was for the early ones, that's right. And the 86 went down to 200. Not so much. 79 Cobra with the fake hood scoop and the snake decal. The SVO had a neat feature with an octane. Yeah, it did have the octane switch, the 8791 or thing. I remember Dave's had that. The intakes were different for the 84 and 85. I remember them talking about that. I remember we tried a few different intakes on the SVO when I was doing the testing with Dave from Tiny Avenger, because what a lot of guys were doing is they were getting rid of the rudder length in the upper section and basically shortening the rudder length, you know, to get all that flow. Well, what they were doing was losing boost response and stuff. So we're going to close out our poll because it's time for me to get going at 93%, saying yes, they have project, which is awesome. Would a cheap eBay T3, T4, 50 trim be capable of 300 horsepower? Yes. Is it like a T04E or something? 20 pounds. Well, stock 35-pound injectors. 35-pound injector is probably not going to be enough. Oh, that 35 which might be enough for 300 horsepower. 5 times 8. No, it won't be enough. You need bigger injectors for that. Quad 4 might have been the best 80s 4-cylinder for NA power. Yeah, they had one that was 195 or 200 too. I have 2 projects at Torino. Can't find any 88 turbo coupes without rotted strut towers. I found a clean Olds Calais with quad 4. Those are cool. I wish I could have got that 442. Try to buy an abandoned Delta. Is it a Delta 88? My buddies in the Fiero Club had a turbo quad 4. That's a quad 4 in the Fiero. That's the motor that should have been in there from the factory. That would have been cool. All right, Dean, go get some sleep, man. What are you doing up that early? Okay, guys, hope you had a good morning. Go get your projects done. I can now mail off my camshafts because I have unbolted them officially. I'm going to take off one of the roller cam actually has some surface rust on it, so I'm going to kind of scuff that off, get that off, and it will be cool to have custom cams available. I'm excited about going down to West Tech eventually here soon and being able to put together, build another 2.2 liter Dodge, this one an early one, get it together and get it running. That will be so exciting to like get it up on the dyno and actually like have it make noise and then be able to start the testing. There's nothing more exciting than running an NA motor and then putting boost on it and then putting all kinds of different boosts and different cams and different heads and different turbos and all that stuff. And the great thing about it being on the engine dyno, is obviously so easy to do. It's a lot easier than particularly on those Dodge motors to access the turbo and stuff back behind there. Even the intake manifold, those guys pull the head. You just pull the whole assembly. I'm like, well, that seems like a lot, but that's what they did back in the day. And that's probably why a lot of guys didn't do multiple intake tests and multiple turbo tests and all of that stuff and put it up on YouTube so that we could get all that information. But on the engine dyno, it will obviously be a lot easier. And so that's what I plan on doing. And on that note, I probably will not be doing a live feed tonight. We have a football game to go to. I'm going to try to finish a video today and get that up. So if I do not see you tonight, it's not because I don't care. It's because we're at a football game. Thank you guys all for watching. Make sure to watch the video that I put up today. And if I don't see you tonight, I will see you tomorrow.